To New Dawn. If you're just joining us, we're taking a look at the state of the nation on this Wednesday, the 5th of June. And we begin with that public participation process on the all-important Finance Bill of 2024, a document that will have significant impact, direct impact on the lives of the entire nation. Now, financial experts have warned in this public participation process that Kenya could soon become a cash economy, driving banks and mobile money out of business if, among others, the proposed 16% VAT on financial transactions in the finance bill is implemented. Various other stakeholders continue to give their views on the finance bill, with others warning that the 16% tax could drive investors out of the country. We'd like to hear where you are in this conversation on the finance bill. The hashtag is New Dawn. But in studio with us to discuss the state of the nation, we have Dr. Isaac Hassan, who is a leadership and governance expert, as well as Vivian Tar, who is a communications and public affairs expert. But also joining us by way of phone is the Mathioya Member of Parliament, Dr. Edwin Mugo. Honorable Mugo, a very good morning to you, and many thanks for making time for us here on New Dawn. The conversation on the finance bill is gaining momentum, with, of course, the bill set to become an act in about a month. Where do you stand in this conversation? It has been politicized, it has been discussed objectively in various other forums. Where do you stand on the finance bill with regard to representing the constituents of Mathioya?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me today. I'm sorry I could not make it to the studio. I thought it was tomorrow. My apologies. But regarding the finance bill, my comments or my take would be, this is just it is in its formative stages. So there is public participation, and I believe because we are a democracy, that whatever the public or whatever the people will give as their views will be factored in the final draft that will be brought to Parliament. And again, we normally vote for it clause by clause. So if there is a good clause, I'm very sure we will pass it. If there is a clause that we have doubts, I'm very sure as Parliament we are going to reject it. But most importantly, Michelle, maybe just to say, is at least for now in this government we can see some transparency. In previous governments we did not hear about finance bills. At least now we are discussing our financial matters of this country in an open space regarding taxes, regarding debt, regarding paid-in bills, all this. Regarding corruption, at least there is some openness and transparency when we are discussing some of these issues. But what I can say, all this we are discussing for now, they are just proposals. And I'm very sure in the interest of time, these proposals will be harmonized. And I'm very sure the government is very sensitive. It will not put, it will not put issues in the finance bill that are going to affect the common mwananchi negatively.
We've already seen the bill, which is not short of gains, but has losses. It's a document that was prepared by the government, so to speak. But all eyes are now on Parliament to represent the people. But there have been doubts on the capacity of the current Parliament to represent the residents or the citizens of Kenya who elected them for the sole purpose of representation. We've had parliamentarians on this very platform, Mheshimiwa, who say they do not have the independence to vote independently on issues, even as the finance bill of 2023, for example. So for you specifically, what stands out for you when it comes to representing the people of Mathioya specifically? Because there's been concerns that MPs have not even read the bill, are not well conversant with the contents of the bill. So what specifically for you are you going to defend or not in the interests of your constituents?
Well, Michelle, maybe just to let you know, the finance team also did public participation in my constituency, for the finance committee and the budget committee, and the issues or the people from my constituency gave them were very clear. I mean, they wouldn't want any punitive taxes. They wouldn't. They would want their taxes to be spent well. You know, there are all these issues about, you know, openness, transparency. You know, things are difficult and so forth. So for me, I want to assure you, I think Parliament we have independence. That one I want to say without a doubt, because I personally have never received a call from anyone to vote in a specific way. And I would give you an example of the impeachment of the CS for agriculture, Rigathi Nturi. We voted with our own conscience, and we were able to, you know, to vote. We voted actually him out. But again,
I think that we had a member of the agriculture committee.
The 11-member select committee saved him based on the evidence and so forth. But for us, as a plenary, we voted with our own conscience, and actually, from Kenya Kwanza, because I was elected through UDA, we did not vote the same way. Some voted to save Nturi, others voted to take him home. So I can tell you, I don't think the president or any other person will come and try and whip members to vote in a specific way. Even, in fact, Michelle, even the last finance bill, no one was forced to vote in a specific way.
It's interesting you say that, because, you know, not too long ago, we had a member of the Agriculture Committee sit here and, you know, say even that Nturi impeachment, you know, select panel, and, you know, was not as transparent as Kenyans would have seen. And so these contradicting statements on the independence of Parliament from members of Parliament themselves then cast a lot of doubt on Kenyans when it comes to their representation in this finance bill. Even just from that conversation with Honorable Mugo, who will be staying on with us for the rest of the show, what are your thoughts on the conversation, where the conversation is now on the finance bill?
I disagree with Mheshimiwa for two reasons. Number one, this is like the second year we are robustly discussing the finance bill in Kenya, not because we are happy to, but because we are hard-pressed to. Taxes are being increased, and we are not seeing the consequent development that should follow this increase in taxes. We had increased taxes last year because of the Finance Bill 2023, which Mheshimiwa actually voted yes for. Whether it was under duress, whether he read it and agreed, I don't know, he has his reasons. But as a member of Parliament, he actually voted yes. So he contributed to our taxes going up last year. Tell me, between 2023 and 2024, what new, you know, development or improvement as a Kenyan, generally, whether you're from Madhyoya or from Busia or from Mombasa, have you seen, you know, that this government has brought? All we keep seeing is, you know, talk of austerity measures, which do not amount to anything. We keep hearing talk of live within your means, yet we see the political elite spending money on non-essential, non-priority areas and cutting the budget for education, cutting budgets for healthcare, critical areas like that, but increasing money on expenditure for like State House, which, I mean, okay, yes, is important, but it cannot be compared to the impact that education and healthcare can have on Kenyans. And I know for Mheshimiwa especially, Madhyoya is an avocado producing constituency. And there was a big outcry by avocado farmers regarding just taxes and how they were affected by the previous, you know, okay, now Finance Act of 2023. The thing is, as a member of Parliament, what exactly, I don't know, does he understand his role? Because I know he also sits on the PAC, the Public Accounts Committee,
right.
And I've never heard him speak publicly against financial impropriety by this government, and yet it is his duty, core responsibility, to hold this government accountable as a member of Parliament. So I disagree with him. The reason we are talking about this finance bill and just issues to do with corruption and taxes is because we are being squeezed to give more money, and we are not seeing where this money is going. And so, of course, we have to ask questions, because if you're going to get money from us, and Kenyans are increasingly feeling like you're working to pay taxes, but you're not seeing the consequent, you know, development that comes with it. Yeah, you're not seeing value for money. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is these bills. We are not, when we participate in them, we want to see a difference. You know, it's not enough to just tell us, oh, Kenyans will give their views, the members of parliament will vote clause by clause, and yet last year they forced it down our throats.
Okay.
We are expecting to see the same thing this year in parliament.
Okay.
But I think parliamentarians should be put on notice.
Oh, and we'll be posing those questions to you, Honorable Mugo. But Hassan, what are your thoughts on what Vivian just brought out and the expectations of Parliament in this finance bill, considering the script or the events that we saw with the finance bill of 2023?
I think our government is structured in three, where we call the three arms of the government. We have the legislative, we have the executive, and we have judiciary. And each of them have been tasked to represent the public in their roles. And if I get to now the legislatures, our members of parliament are tasked to represent, legislate, and oversight. And when you look at all those three, it has nothing to do with the executive. They are all something to do with the electorates. But when we go into parliament, I think our mindset changes completely from the role that we are supposed to carry out to becoming a robot for the executive. Now, when we, as the public, lose trust in the people that we sent there to represent us, it means that we have been left alone and we will have no representative whatsoever, whichever way it comes. What do I mean by that? If the member of parliament is not ready to look into all the bills that are coming in to parliament that will going to press the electorate, then it's unfortunate because they are looking at their own interest. They are not looking at the interest of the electorate. Our members of parliament has failed us several times on 3 occasions. One, the bills that are being submitted there are not voted based on the interest of the public. They are voted in the interest of the government of the day. And that way means then we were left out completely. So they have not represented us. But Kenyans are so unique people that we forget as soon as this pressure is over, we forget, and tomorrow the same people whom we sent there to represent us, we bring them back again for lack of proper representation.
All right, let's bring in...
Above all, just one point is that we know why we have elected an individual to come and represent many people. The fact that all the public cannot come into parliament, represent and to echo their problem, that's why they bestowed their powers on an individual to go and represent them. And if we fail to represent the electorate at that particular time, then we have failed our responsibility.
Okay.
So I tend to think parliamentarians are not looking at things very keenly. If there are issues that the public has already pointed out, it should not be taken like 2023 financial bill, because public participation was done. The public has spoken out, issues that to be addressed, but it has never been implemented, or it has never been considered. And therefore, we will not want the same things to happen again.
All right. Honorable Mugo, let's now bring in the concerns that have been raised. And Vivian raises one concern, that you actually voted yes for the finance bill of 2023. And Kenyans felt like that bill was shoved down their throats, at least in the words that Vivian used. The bill did impose more taxes on Kenyans, and the conversation is that we do need to pay more taxes to have more development in the country. But even legislators say we can tax other corners, other places, and not really what impacts households and directly even impacts the hustler that the Kenya Kwanza administration promised the world. However, did you vote yes for the finance bill of 2023 because the constituents, your constituents in Mathioya were okay and voted yes for the bill? What informed the decision? Were you under duress?
Michelle, first of all, I was not under duress when I voted yes. I voted based on my conscience, and because I had read the bill. That is one. But most importantly, Michelle, we must say that we have a lot of issues in this country, especially the pending bills and the public debt. That's why sometimes maybe Vivian might say, you know, there's no value for money. But I can tell you, even the roads that have been done now, almost 80%, they have not been paid. We are talking about more than 1 trillion Kenya shillings paid in bills, money that is owed to Kenyans. So basically, what we are trying to say, even if the government wants to initiate new projects, and I'm not here maybe to defend the executive, they have to pay. They have to pay for what has already been done, and that is why maybe sometimes the public cannot see new developments, new roads coming in. Because we are trying, and this is the policy of the government. We have to clear all the bills that accrued even from Kibaki's government, even from Uhuru's government, because the government exists in perpetuity. So basically, the government inherited all the problems that were from the other government, and this is what the president and the executive, they are trying to clean up. Regarding my role as a member of parliament, I know we are supposed to represent, to legislate and oversight, and we are doing oversight in Public Accounts Committee. And I'm very happy that Vivian knows that I'm in PAC. But we don't publicize everything. But I can tell you we are doing a lot. For instance, Michelle,
yes, give us examples, because how much financial impropriety have you highlighted?
Let me give an example. When there is a pending bill, when a contractor raises a certificate and it is not paid, immediately penalties and interest starts accumulating. We have asked the government to do the calculation of how much penalties and interest they owe contractors in this country. And Michelle will be surprised, there is more than 300 billion Kenya shillings. And this started from Kibaki, and that is money that, there's no work, there's no road that has been done, there is no dam that has been done, or there is no development that has been done, but because there was no money, or maybe money was, the accounting officer never followed the PFM Act, which says the pending bill should form the first charge, and so forth. So we are trying to clean some of these things, to make sure that there is value for money. But I can tell you, Michelle, we are trying our level best, and as the president says, and I'm not here to defend the president, let us give this government time, to try and clean up the mess. Clean up the mess that was left by the former government. Then once we clean up the mess, then we can take off. And there are so many positives. I mean, like now, at least the issues of food securities are stabilizing. Farmers are getting bumper harvest through the subsidized fertilizer, though there was an issue of a scandal and so forth. But that is 2%. And these are some of the things. Some of these scandals. These are some of the things that we are doing in Public Accounts Committee. We have even requested for special audit.
Okay.
Actually, special and forensic audit on some of these scandals.
All right. Even as you say that, we have a headline.
Even edible oil. Because I know my job as oversight, we must make sure that the tax that Vivian pays, the tax that Michelle pays, the tax that me as a member of parliament pays, that it is used prudently.
All right, Mheshimiwa, you mentioned quite a lot, but even as you say that, we have a front page of the People Daily that says, shame of counties or poor spending on growth. And, it looks like counties have used only about 22% of their budget on development. But I'm going to give Vivian, a second to usurp my role of asking questions on this panel, Mheshimiwa, because Vivian has one pressing question for you. Vivian, go ahead.
Yes, Mheshimiwa, I have a question. I know your constituency was affected by the recent floods. There were landslides that affected a number of your residents in Madioya. And as a member of PAC, I've never heard you say anything about the issues the Auditor General raised concerning the Disaster Management Fund. There was some impropriety and there were some red flags raised about management of that fund. You are a member of parliament representing constituents who are actually affected by a disaster. I've never heard you speak. If I'm wrong, please correct us, set the record straight.
Can I go?
Go ahead, Mheshimiwa.
Yeah, actually, I've even done a statement, Michelle, on the issues of the management of disaster funds. But disaster management is a concurrent function. It's a function of the county government and also is a function of the national government. So I have even requested for a statement on the use of funds, on how the country is prepared and so forth. But most importantly, that now Vivian has said that the Auditor General raised those issues. Those issues will come before PAC. They will come before PAC.
My final question, because as we continue this conversation, you mentioned that the Public Accounts Committee that you sit in, Mheshimiwa, you mentioned that the Public Accounts Committee that you sit in has done a lot to flag and bring up issues of financial impropriety in the government. In your view, will curbing corruption, financial impropriety, save Kenya from having to overtax its citizenry? You have the figures, you have the numbers. Would it work, and will it really ever work?
Yeah, I mean, Michelle, I can tell you the biggest cancer that is eating our country is corruption. And that one I will say without blinking an eye, because me and you and everyone knows that the level of corruption in this country is very high. And it's not only in government, even in the private sector. Even in the media, almost everywhere, there is corruption. So I think this is a subject that also needs to be taught in schools, so that our kids, when they are growing up, they can be taught about the issues of corruption, the effects of corruption, because you can see the effects of corruption through these heavy rains, where somebody corruptly obtained land in riparian areas, and now they are being affected by the floods and so forth. So corruption, Michelle, is very expensive, and that is why the president said, if we are corrupt, mambo ni matatu.
How expensive it is, because they are paying for it. But let's take a break. Let's take a break, Mheshimiwa. Please do stay on with us on the phone. We must take a break. When we come back, we'll also be hearing from Dr. Hassan on his thoughts on this conversation. We're discussing the state of the nation, issue the finance bill, and especially accountability when it comes to represented members of parliament. Are they cutting out their mandate of representation as they should? When we come back, also take a look at the health sector as more and more Kenyans suffer a shortage of drugs and vaccines across the country. Why are we here? That conversation continues in just a moment.